All right, so we're finally gonna get around to casing this window out. We've kind of decided on a backsplash. So the first thing we need to do is actually case this out so that we can kind of bring our backsplash up to the casing. So this is a little bit of a unique setup, obviously. You know, I don't think I've ever really seen a backsplash sort of window with a stove here. It's sort of something we kind of came up with our kitchen. You can see, you know, it's centered on this wall. Basically what we need to do is we need to build a box in here. It's called basically a jamb extension. And all that does is that extends the jamb. So it extends from the window to the drywall. Deep do we need this jamb to be? So if I look at this, the easiest way to do this is actually just grab a piece of wood, throw it in a corner like this, push it against it, and it'll tell you exactly it's 3 1/8. So basically it's 3 1/8 from the drywall to here. So I need to rip 4 pieces of wood at 3 1/8, okay? So we'll go out on the saw, and we'll do that. So now to put this frame together, we're gonna use a Kreg jig. I have a few of them. I have like the original one, and I have like this is the newest one. This one works a lot better, way easier. What we're gonna do is this is the back side, okay? So the back side, that's where we're gonna put our pocket hole. And in this, I could put 2. I'm gonna put just 1. This is really just to hold it in place while we're installing it, because once you install it, you kind of put all the other trim and glue it and caulk it, it's really held in place. So this is really just to hold it. You know, 1 here, 1 there, flip it over. And if you don't have one of these Kregs, I mean, this is one of those tools. I'll put a link to this down below. This is really one of those tools that everybody that's a DIYer should have. It's just really, it's a really good tool, real simple. And the one I have here is actually really simple to set up, like as you can see. I'm not getting crazy. I'm just putting the hole in the center. So depending on how you do yours, mine is on the inside. You know, so you really, when you're doing these, you got to be careful. You know, when I mean it, are you going to do it this way or are you going to do it this way? You have to decide. So mine are in the inside. Okay, that wasn't working for some reason. Don't know why. Okay. Put it in. That's what we're working with right now. Now, one thing I will point out is that down here it's like perfect. You know, the trim. Up here it's perfect. But inside here, the wall sort of bows in like this, and it bows in like this on both sides. But you can see there, it's kind of sticks proud of the drywall there. So I could do one of 2 things. I could either cut this like a concave, which I'm not gonna do. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna loosen these drywall screws, and I'm gonna put a little shim in there to shim it to this, so that it's flat. You'll never notice it, and it'll actually make this sit, you know, this piece of trim sit here nice and flat. I'm gonna do it on both sides. So for this install, we're going to use these GRK trim screws, okay? These are white, super small head. Yeah, that's dead level. So we're just gonna attach this directly to the top. And push it up against the bottom, it's gonna use shims. And have it kind of hold itself in place, so. Now what I'm looking at is the centering between this and this. I just want it to be the same, and the top looks pretty good. It looks like it actually goes up maybe a little bit on this side, but if I push that up, it's perfect. So I like that. So we're just gonna screw this in. All right, now we're gonna work left to right. So this is actually just kind of a pretty simple process of eyeballing it. You could probably use a square in there, make sure you stay square, but really my window has these channels that I'm gonna use to eyeball it. And then we're gonna, pretty much same process. We'll use the trim screws, we'll use the same trim screws, we'll use shims, and we'll go through the shims on the side. We're gonna put a screw like here, there, and then maybe in the bottom. So don't do that, I just cracked that, and it's actually went in too far. I was actually gonna try to overdrive it and then bring it back, and the bit broke off in there. So this will be fun. I gotta get that out of there. All right, we're gonna check, make sure everything is flat. Make sure the screws didn't bow anything. All right, we look good. Next step, now we need to finish the casing. We got the header in, all right, but it's just basically being held in there by friction. I set my gap at a 1/2 inch. I really wanted a large reveal here. Then what we're doing is we're going around and we are measuring. So we want a 1/2 inch overhang here. So if we measure here to here, we're about 3.5 inches, okay? So we're gonna cut this at 3 inches, this side here. And unfortunately, this isn't perfectly centered. It's actually 1/4 of an inch off. So this one will be about 2 3/4 we'll cut this at. So we're gonna cut this one at 2 3/4, cut this one at 3 inches, all right? We're gonna cut them long, all right, to get them in there. The reason why I'm gonna do the sides now is because I wanna do the bottom, but I'm gonna see how this lays out. We'll run them long, like I said, and then we'll determine, you know, how we're gonna do the bottom. I think I'm gonna cut the bottom and kind of have it go in here a little bit, cover that gap. But let's see. I actually had to do a little bit of surgery here because this drywall had a little bump out. But, you know, you won't see that, obviously, once the trim's there. So let's get out. I'm gonna go cut those side pieces. All right, now holding this up to the header, all right, we're gonna level this with a level, and then we're gonna make a mark. So you can see there's a mark down here. We have one on this side, one on this side. All right, so now this is gonna be the width of our bottom piece that we're gonna put in here. So this is how we're gonna know what width to make it. So first thing we're gonna do is cut the width. Okay, there's some math going on here because this falls right at 3 feet. And I think the reason why it falls at 3 feet is, yeah, because these are at 3 feet, the width here and here. So we're gonna cut a piece at 3 feet wide, and we're gonna do a 1/2 inch overhang. So if I measure down a 1/2 inch, let's do both sides just to be sure. I'm gonna make it like a hat. So I'm gonna have to go just a little bit below, have like a little bit of a lip. So I'm gonna make it just even at 4 inches, all right? All right, so we got to the soles. Cut that. Basically a 4-inch high piece. Probably get to rip down a bigger piece by 3 feet. All right, now we got our piece cut at 3 feet, all right? And now we want to cut out a little piece here so we can sort of push this down. It'll basically kind of finish it off a little bit. So what I did was we're gonna make a mark right where it lines up with the countertop on both sides, after of course lining it up with the lines that we made on the wall. And then we gotta decide how much are we gonna cut out of this, because we're kind of making it look like a upside down top hat, I guess, if that makes sense. So what I'm gonna do is like make a line here, make a line there where it lines up, and then we're gonna measure. And you know, if we're off like 1/8 of an inch or something like that, it's really not a huge deal. But what I'm gonna do is measure from our line here to the line there. It's about a 1/2 inch actually, okay? Let's see on both sides. About a 1/2 inch. All right, about a 1/2 inch. So we need to come up about a 1/2 inch, all right, on both sides. We're gonna cut that first 1/2 inch, okay? So we're gonna bring our blade up a 1/2 inch. So we have to cut a 1/2 inch here and a 1/2 inch there. We got to be careful because we're trying to cut this part out. So we make sure our blade is cutting on the right side. Line this up like so. Now we need to cut this off, basically a 1/2 inch. All right, I'm gonna make a line for myself that's in line with the channel that we already cut. All right, then what I could do is use this line to set my gate. And that's what we're left with there. Let's do the same thing on the other side. And the reason why we bring the blade all the way up for this specific cut is so that you have more blade, more up and down surface. If you're kind of just cutting at the top, it's kind of a very curve, it's a big curve. So that's why I did it that way. Let's see if this fits. So you can see it's a little long, probably a blade length long. We'll just give this a little chop. So here we go, give it another little chop. And that's how it fits in there. So this is kind of the idea. I might actually cut this bottom piece at a little bit of an angle to basically just be able to push this in maybe a little more. All right, so this is where we're gonna end this video, is a few days later. These aren't actually tacked in. They're kind of just set in there actually with tension. That's how tight they are. I'm not gonna install these in this video because I do have to do the backs. What I'm gonna do with the backsplash to kind of make this look finished is I'm gonna take these down when I do the backsplash, and I'm gonna run them like inside, almost halfway, so that it's a real nice, clean break between the backsplash and here. So basically I'll just cut like a little notch out. All right, so that's why I'm not attaching them. Now, if I was attaching them, I could do a few different ways. I could use those trim screws, but I probably wouldn't recommend using the trim screws on the face, you know, like I did up there. I probably would use something like this. This is a brad nailer 18 gauge, you know, use like 2.5, whatever, inch brad nails, 2-inch brad nails will be fine. Okay, to fill the holes, I use actually this Drydex. So you put this on, it's pink, and it dries white. So you see I did sort of fill out some holes here. You gotta just basically sand them after you do it. Usually for a bigger one, you need 2 coats. For small little holes with the brad nailer, usually only 1, okay? And finally what you're gonna do is get a caulk. And what you want is a very good high quality caulk. I would recommend something like this, the 40-year one, paintable, okay? And I'm gonna caulk, when I'm done installing this, in between all of these joints, in between here, up here. It really makes, I'll even do inside here, it really just finishes it off, really makes it look good. And then I'll do a nice coat of paint, and this thing will look great. So that's how you case a window. If you were into something like this, and you're into maybe finishing a kitchen, I am also doing the trim here. And I made a video on exactly how to do that. You can see I kind of got to still paint some of this stuff and finish it up. But we're really at the end of this kitchen project. Into doing kitchens or DIY stuff, I would ask you, please like this video, please subscribe to the channel. I shared everything that I did in this kitchen on the channel over the last 2 years. This kitchen looked completely different, but we are getting to the end. The next thing we're gonna do is tackle this fireplace in this entire room, but that's for another day. I am Mike, Family DIY TV, and I am kitchen backsplash window out.